And, I don't want guilt to be put on people, but just seek your joy. These are our circumstances, and they are not pretty. I am one of those. I am one of those that is certainly embracing all aspects of this coronavirus, much to my dismay. But that's where my journey is right now.
Disinformation is spreading.
There will be a
We
surprise
only have
outbreak.
so many
Is
beds.
the issue of pandemic.
This is not how I thought I would end college.
They said that they would express their concerns about the mask supply.
Where's the mask?
One
Where's the
expert
glove?
says a second wave is
Get
possible.
away
We
from
all
all of
need
these
some good
people.
news.
This is a message for all the healthcare workers out there.
Thank you.
If you're looking for hope tonight, raise your hand. If you feel alone and don't understand, if you're fighting the fight of your life, then stand. We're gonna make it through this.
From Santa Rosa, California, this is 19 Stories. I'm Cheryl Halling. Liz Atherton is a veteran of the talent business with more than 30 years' experience as the founder of one of the top talent agencies in the industry, as well as an enthusiastic and passionate tech entrepreneur and founder of CastVoices.com. During the current shelter in place, she's also added washer repair woman, drywall installation, and snake charmer to her already impressive list of credits. Liz Atherton, welcome to
That's
19
awesome.
Stories.
That's quite the intro. Kind of true. I don't know what to say. Oh, God.
That's the one good thing about this time is that we've all learned to be a little self-reliant and perhaps too much.
Yeah, depending on where you are in the spectrum, for darn sure.
Speaking of where you are, tell us where you're located in the country.
I'm in a little town just north of Austin, Texas, Central Texas, and I'm very fortunate. I live in borrowed housing, lakeside. I'm real fortunate.
You have a beautiful place on the lake.
Thank you.
And at the same time, we know this is being recorded on July 2nd, 2020. The news of what's happening in Texas is pretty crushing.
It is. I'll jump in. My feeling about it, I am one that is compromised in terms if my lungs get sick, they're gonna get really sick. And which this virus attacks the lungs. So I've been kind of had my pulse on what's going around, and I've been home pretty much quarantine since March 9th. I've had guests over here who are my dearest friends who are also quarantining and being special 4 times. I've gone to the grocery store a handful of times. I've been very blessed in that my kids have jumped in and friends have jumped in and, made all this possible to get stuff delivered. And, I'm lucky that way. The exponential growth in Texas right now, I suspect, we hit over 8,000 new cases yesterday.
Mm.
And I have a feeling we're going to hit between 10 and 12 today. I hope with everything about me I'm wrong, but we are just beginning to hit the results of non-protected cohabitation and partying from the end of May. And, it's been pretty steady because not only have we had that, we've had the protesters, we've had the soft now to openings in all sectors, and it's just nobody seems to believe this shit's real. Apologize, I cuss, but nobody tends to believe this stuff is real.
Well, it's kind of like what's happening in our country with the line in the sand with racism. There's a lot of people who
Oh my
believe that it
God.
isn't real because it hasn't affected them, what it's like to operate day to day and deal with that
A state of
in a
fear.
state of fear.
From a state of fear and survival. And no, I do not know to the extent that is life altering. All I know is that I can do everything possible to make a concerted effort that I see my friends through their vision and with a sense of empathy in the way they feel. It's the best. Of course, I have a little bit of a following on Facebook and I post stuff out there, but I'm speaking to mostly my own crowd. I'm speaking to other people who care, who have a similar viewpoint. And, we're there to reinforce one another. Wahoo. I have many friends on my platforms that are also of a different mindset. And I do think it's mindset and ignorance to what it is to be a human being. And, I do think it's mindset and ignorance to what it is to be a human being. And, I do think it's mindset and ignorance to what it is to be a human being. And, I do think it's mindset and ignorance to what it is to be a human being. And, I do think it's mindset and ignorance to what it is to be a human being. And, I do think it's mindset and ignorance to what it is to be a human being. And, I do think it's mindset and ignorance to what it is to be a human being. And, I do think it's mindset and ignorance to what it is to be a human being. And, I do think it's mindset and ignorance to what it is to be a human being. And, I do think it's mindset and ignorance to what it is to be a human being. And, I do think it's mindset and ignorance to what it is to be a human being. And, I do think it's mindset and ignorance to what it is to be a human being. And, I do think it's mindset and ignorance to what it is to be a human being. And, I do think it's mindset and ignorance to what it is to be a human being. And, I do think it's mindset and ignorance to what it is to be a human being. And, I do think it's mindset and ignorance to what it is to be a human being. And, in terms of human condition, why in the world are we not embracing one another to the best of our abilities? Just
That's
why?
why I made that analogy because, anytime something affects us personally, it's real. And if we don't, somehow it doesn't exist.
I mean, people have put on blinders, and ultimately, I think we have to go to why. Why are there blinders? And, I read an important article this morning, and hold on, I'll pull it up so I can get the right name, but it so resonated with me because, this stuff is symptomatic of a core belief system. And in that core belief system, this article, hold on, I'm sorry that this is taking so long. It's the Dunning-Kruger effect. And in my layman's terms of a Dunning-Kruger effect on a particular event, when people don't know, they feign that they know everything. And then as those that figure out they don't know everything, those that really do know everything sink as well for fear of speaking out. It's a really interesting take on our society right now. Our leadership is extolling almost an emperor like knowing of everything
Which in
all.
any society is dangerous.
Well, of course, but the problem is that he doesn't, even when he figures out that he's wrong, he still stands his ground. And I think this current mask, I think it was Forbes, it was one of the number ones, was like, if everyone would wear masks, we would save the economy $1 trillion. It was Forbes. $1 trillion by wearing your mask. So, I mean, again, for me, I stay home a lot. I rarely go out, and I find, through the kindness of strangers, the ability and family and friends to not, because it's a
You're
thing.
not only caring for yourself, but you're also doing what a lot of governors and state officials are asking us to do, of course, depending on which state you're in, and that is to take care of yourself and to take care of other people by staying, at home as much as you can. And certainly that's the direction for this weekend. So I'm curious, when you are feeling fear or just being at home as much as you have been and being exposed to the news of what's going on in your state, how are you taking care of yourself? What do you do to nurture yourself? Because you're very, very supportive of people. You're always encouraging. You're one of the most positive people I know online, and yet you're dealing with some real stuff.
Well, okay, so my opinion about this virus, outside of the horrendous deaths and destruction, is that I think it's a period of
Hmm.
grace. I absolutely unequivocally think it is a period of grace. Those who are struggling making their rent anyway, they got grace. They didn't have to pay it for a few months. Those who didn't have money for their utilities, they were held on. Those who needed a break from work but didn't have time off, here you
Hmm.
go. For those who were, like myself, really on a journey of internal actualization, those are the words I'm going to use. I don't know if they're right. They're not from any book, just from my brain. But this time has been a blessing to me. I'm a homebody anyway. Having grace, that grace is interestingly enough, all those grace times were put in place are now ending. So they're ending when the coronavirus is having a party, and they're ending when there is so much discourse. I think if people have not done the work to be personally prepared for just emotional turmoil as we go forward for a while, not to mention scientific and health related turmoil, So hopefully people did the work, and at least they're open to the fact that they might have
I
work to
love
do.
that you said it's a period of grace because that's how I feel it's been. Unfortunately, pain is a changer. It's a game changer.
Oh, honey,
You
honey, honey,
mentioned
yes, it
that
is.
you have a health challenge to be aware of.
Yeah, that's kind of presenting itself right now. I have for anybody that doesn't know, I have an adenocarcinoma in situ in my right frontal lobe, which is a fancy words for I have an area in the lining of my lung that my surgeon believes to be a type of slow growing cancer. It did take a little bit of a growth spurt last year, It grew from 5 millimeters to 8 millimeters. And I go in August, which is next month. They're already putting together the referrals for, to see. Honest to good, I mean, when my surgeon brought it to my attention, he said, look, because everybody's going to die. Everybody. And he goes, yeah, this isn't bothering you. And I love to cut. I think you're going to make it to 80 with no problem. So how about we leave it alone unless something drastically changed? I'm like, hell yeah. I like the way.
If it's not broke, don't fix it.
Right. But fortunately, it is there. And I've had 2 other lung surgeries. So I've got a lot of scar tissue having a party, which is not bothering me. But I can't really afford for my lungs to take on any additional tenants. The inn is full.
It is there.
It is
The
full.
sign is out.
The sign is yes, and so all you little teeny, stepchildren of the big pie in the sky who's out here hurting people, do not visit me. We're full. Yeah, so I'm being really careful. I can be more careful. I kind of decided I had some friends come in for my birthday was last week.
Happy birthday to you.
Oh, well, thank you. But they came in and celebrated, and it was lovely to see them. It was such an amazing couple of days with friends. And, we're all being careful. We're all being good, and we were careful and good till we got here, but it was a risk. And so I am feeling great. I don't have any reason to be concerned, but I am home for the next 20 days. Well, I'm 2 days into it. I'm home. Till July 18th or 19th, I am not stepping out of here in my car unless it is a no contact sport like going to the bank.
And as it's been said many times, who would have ever thought we can walk into a bank with a mask on and ask for money, right?
I mean, and I love my bank. Good Lord. I mean, it just, I don't know, interesting segue, but me and my partner are launching a dream of mine that I started in 1995. And it's called Cast Voices. And I'm not sitting here to punch Cast Voices, but so much has happened through the realization of this dream. One, I am a certifiable, lost my mind, oh my God, entrepreneur.
I'm glad you're talking about Cast Voices because I actually wanted to find out. Now, you and I know whether it's doing voiceover or agenting, fill in the blank in this industry, you work from home. But how has the launch of Cast Voices during this shelter in place affected you at all? Or perhaps it's been a really positive time.
So we were ready to jump into the development of this actually last year, and we had funding. But we were both so heavily attorney protected that getting everything teed and crossed. And I say that with a great deal of love. Our investors and our partners are Bobby and Elizabeth Alcott. My partner is Nick Krause. And those are 2 of the finest human beings I, honest to God, have ever met in my entire life. They are selfless and smart and understanding and generous and caring. And can you imagine getting to work with people like that who actually believe in what you're doing from the core? It's really remarkable. It's a huge
If
blessing.
everybody was doing that in the world, it'd be a much happier place.
Mm-hmm. So my partner, Nick, who also happens to be my son, in terms of business, I have never met anyone as savvy, brilliant, forward-thinking as him. I mean that irrespective of I'm his mother. He and I have been working together in business for several years now, and he is our chief technical officer. He is a self-taught senior stack developer because his day job was a movie star, but he went to college at 10. And
Wait. Back up a moment ago. He went to college at 10?
Yes, he's brilliant.
At 10. Okay, that's not just a sidebar, my dear.
He just was that human and quiet and handsome. And then Hollywood came a calling, and he did some big movies. He's got another big movie coming out. But his brain is so creative and analytical. He's one of those. And he's very sensitive to just about everything. I mean, there's things that he's put in our software that make us a portal of information in a way that will help people in general going forward. By pure definition, we're a pay to play. But you can have a free subscription that gives you the same audition opportunities as if you were paid. If you pay, you get bells and whistles that you don't get if you don't pay. You also show up on rosters. You get things like a rate calculator. You get things, and those are in for future iterations. You get things like more storage space to show off who you are. Get things like being able to list all of your agents, your Facebook, your Twitter, all those accounts from your page, and the ability to keep that page up to date. I mean, you hit enter, wait a few minutes, and your data is part of your profile that shows up every single time you get submitted for an audition. So it's different in the other ones in that your profile is attached to your audition every single time you audition.
Sounds like this time has given you a real focus to go, all right, no holds barred. We're going to launch this thing. And do you have a timeline as to when it's going to launch?
I believe we are on target for September, which is 2 months away, 2.5 months away. We're trying to do it right. We're trying to make the union happy. I believe we are, we're very far. And I mean, they don't endorse anybody, but I believe we're very far in making this a platform that the union would not frown upon. So no, I mean, who knows? We'll see when it gets out there, but it's a lot of good work. I'm really proud of it. And, so we want it to be something that is useful to you as a person doing business, voiceover.
Given how even the studio work has changed, because so many people, not that they weren't working from home, but all of a sudden a lot of talent found themselves going, wow, I need to now know how to do remote sessions, whereas before I
Yeah.
went to a studio. How do you see the industry changing when we come out of the shelter in place, when we're able to go back into studios?
Well, this is strictly from my extrapolation, nothing I've read or seen, but my assumption would be that the studios, even though they may not rent out their space as much, although they are starting to do that. I don't know if you watch Dave Fenoy, he was talking about this is his third time back in a live studio setting.
Yeah, I did see that.
And then conversely, you watched Bob, why am I drawing a blank? Pig.
Hello. Bob Bergen. Bob Bergen, yes. The pig.
I was cutting trips. I'm like, Bob, I'm so sorry.
Sorry, Bob.
And if you're listening, please forgive me. We'll just call it coronavirus crazy, man. I'm so sorry. But he did several posts about how he was having to really all he used to do was go into the studio, and now he was recording from home. So he had to get technically up to date. And I loved watching these two industry influencers sharing their stories because it's interesting to me in terms of mom and pop studios, as long as they can still play intermediary, you know, and they're the ones that oftentimes are challenged to go find the work. And work from home was really a big thing. Was before. It always was. It's just in places like LA and things like that where it's really much more of a you got to work from in-house because I don't know, they're trying to connect you with a monitor or you're having to interact live or green screen, whatever the case may be. So I don't honestly, Cheryl, I just don't think it's going to be. I hope to goodness the moment. I just don't think it's going to be a huge negative impact. But again, I speak from a place of very little hands-on knowledge about that.
I asked because you have your hands in it a little bit more. I'm formerly from Los Angeles. I live in Sonoma County now. And I do know that with everybody having the technology available to them, it certainly opened up the world to people who wouldn't have had the access before. And so just was curious what your take is on that. So I want to ask you, because you did mention your son, and I had no idea that he went to college at 10, and to say that he's smart would be an understatement. So, how did he go from Austin, Texas to doing a film with George Clooney in Hawaii?
So Nick was 17. Now I had been an agent, and I started as an agent and on camera, and then added voiceover later in the game. But I'd had some kids do some pretty successful projects. So my roster, the way it worked on the old voice bank, not voice bank, but Actors Access, is that, and maybe it still does. I'm not in the throes of that right now, but if you became known to the casting directors, they would invite you to their very exclusive invitation list to see if you had talent for roles. And I got invited, the talent agency got invited to submit on The Descendants. We did. And the irony about it is they wanted taped auditions. They auditioned, I think, 3,500 people from across the way. I mean, it's a $25 million film directed by Academy Award winning Alexander Payne, starring Academy Award winner George Clooney. It was pretty impressive. Anyway, Kate, my daughter, see, Nick was 17, Kate was 14. They went to a charter school on the way. And so they would get up and leave about 7 in the morning to get there by 8. Or 7:30, whatever. Anyway, they got up real early, and Kate had a flip phone and taped Nick's audition. And at this point, I don't really know what's going on. I know they're auditioning. Listen, when you're an agent, you see tons of auditions come through, and you submit on tons of auditions. And striking and winning the lottery is a stroke of luck, genius included, but it is a stroke of luck. So we send in the audition. A week later, we get a call from the casting director. He said, "Man, it's a good audition, but we can't really see it. It's not real good quality, but we like him. But can you redo it?" And we never did, and that was by design. I'm like, no, I'm not going to redo this. They like him through this filter, and it is actually who he is as a human, and it is who that character is. Nick pulled that stuff off, and then we got a call. And by this time, so that was in August, I didn't hear a word except for sending a new one, and we never did. Then in August, by this time, now divorced, but at the time, my husband had been out of work for 11 months. And we get a call, "Can you come to New York for a callback?" Long story short, we flew to New York. Alexander Payne said, "I love him, get prepared, Mom." And I didn't know that meant he was booking him. Got a call on February 9th. Nick is a senior in high school. At this point, he's still 17. We got him out of school. He had gone to college, and then we put back into regular school. Let me clarify that. He didn't graduate from college. He was took a bunch of math stuff. He got out of school in 2 weeks, and we were on set, and I had to go with him because he was 17.
That's quite the strategy to actually not redo your audition.
Well, I don't know if it's really the right strategy, but it felt like the right thing to do on this particular thing because I didn't know that Nick I guess part of I was a little concerned that it was not repeatable. I mean, it's got to be repeatable for him to book, but I didn't want to take him out of the interest because he didn't create it exactly as it was. It was just the perfect storm. Kate was reading as George, which I'm sorry, there goes my snort.
That's all right.
We're all at our first dinner together. Hawaii. It was just a beautiful experience. We're all at dinner together, and George comes and sits down, and he goes, "Right, Nick, I need to talk to your sister." Because, he had watched the audition and everything. So it was priceless gifts. Anyway, so when Nick got back, he did a couple things. He has a movie coming out. But when he got back, he started teaching himself how to program. And he went to Hollywood, and he lived there, and he's not come home, but he went out there. He had a beautiful agent at the time who picked him up after the Descendants. And she helped him in so many ways. And he's got a beautiful manager right now that helps him in so many ways. And he's got agenting now out of California. And these people, Rebecca and Bonnie, and I don't remember his new agent's name, my apologies, but Rebecca and Bonnie, Bonnie's not involved with him anymore, but at the beginning she was. And Rebecca has been his manager for the last 10 years. In the meanwhile, he taught himself how to program because I asked him if he wanted. We had developed a pretty extensive back end to tag. You didn't come on to get to see the real beauty of it, but it crashed and burned the same month that Voices bought VoiceBank.
To your point, and for full disclosure, I am one of the fortunate ones that got in under the radar and was referred to Jimmy Cobble prior to you selling your agency, of which I'm a proud member of Tag Talent.
He's a good dude, man. A good dude. Jimmy is just so human, and he fights from a street fight for his talent. He just knows what's right, and he goes for it from that way. And he's subtle but strong, or actually not so subtle. Anyway, so we were hit with our database of all of our talent. Bernie, we're going to have to rebuild this. And do we want to build it in a way that we're going to go ahead and launch our casting platform? So that was a big decision point for us about 3 years ago. And Nick at this time was working at a company as a senior full stack developer, and he came on there later. And so it just was meant to be, the training, the everything. And he is just so smart. And that's kind of that's a big long story. I probably talked way too much, but that's
No. I love it. You're the perfect guest. My first episode was with another loquacious woman, and I just sat back and did other things.
Loquacious. That's a great
Isn't that a
word.
yummy word? I love that word.
Loquacious.
So
Yes.
my question is whether or not there was a particular faith that is helping you through this time.
I fully believe inside out, upside down, backwards and forwards that we're all one. We're all one. I don't designate that as a particular Baptist or Episcopalian or Buddhist or spiritual or any of those, but I believe that, I probably thank God truthfully 10 or 15 times a day. I stub my toe and it's not bleeding. Thank you, God. I find a penny in a fork.
Thank you, God. Yeah,
Thank you,
absolutely.
God. Thank you, God. And it just comes from me naturally. I don't remind myself I need to do that. It just happens. I attended Unity Church, which I love. Unity Church, the core foundation is praying. It's just from a place of, listen, just do what's right. For me, just do what's right. And, to take it to the next level, we are all on this earth to learn. And we are here to learn. And until we figure out what that lesson is, it's going to hurt. It may be something that we do to ourselves. It may be journey that we create ourselves. It may be the journey of someone else that we're a part of. But we all have lessons to learn while we're down here. If someone leaves this earth really early, the pain and the torture of all of that, just perhaps, their journey that is to whatever that was. So I believe we're all one, and I believe we do kind by one another. But in terms of an organized religion or rules before you can ascend the stairs to heaven, I think those are states of mind, and we just have to be good to one another. Did that answer you?
It's your answer, Liz, and that's what's important.
It's my answer.
It's your answer. And speaking of being mindful of each other and caring for one another, is there something you wish folks were mindful of right now as it relates to how we can care and nurture each other?
I think for a personal place, be grateful. Come from a place of being grateful. If you've got food in your refrigerator, be grateful, because I assure you there is someone that does not.
That
Does not.
Amen.
If you've got work and it's overflow, be grateful, because there's someone next to you that would give anything for that $50. If you know someone that needs help, just help. Don't ask, because nobody's, especially in our circles, nobody's going to say, I can't eat, I can't sleep, I need to talk. We do that, but we're home. When you're home, you're not having that opportunity. Well, we're not all home. We're building the camaraderie, and we all build camaraderie in so many different ways. And, when you're home with the same person every day in and out, you got to really work at making that important. be grateful you have that person, because then there's someone around the corner that doesn't. And, I don't want
Absolutely.
guilt to be put on people, but just seek your joy. These are our circumstances, and they are not pretty. I am one of those. I am one of those that is certainly embracing all aspects of this coronavirus, much to my dismay. But that's where my journey is right now. And I think for me, the only way to fix that, or to learn from the other side, is to really look inside and become the person that I'm meant to be. And that comes from a place of relationships, family, money, dogs, philanthropic activities. I mean, just cover the gamut. There is a blessing in everything about you. You just have to see it. And my advice to people: if you're going to sit in the coronavirus and you're sitting here and you're going to go, but woe is me, woe is me, woe is me, can't friggin' change the trajectory of this virus. And if you're in government and you're making those decisions, you've got a hell of a weight on your shoulders. But if you're down here in the trenches and you're trying to make do, griping about it, well, and I'm a griper. I gripe about not wearing your mask. I gripe about not doing that stuff. I'm really trying to gripe from a place, please do this. And, being grateful is really, really important.
Well, I think it's a choice every single day how we look at something. What side of the coin are you looking at? And as you mentioned, it's also, our perspective and our reality. If you don't have food on the table and you can't pay your rent, or, your dog ran away, or,
Yeah, I mean,
fill in the
that's a
country
great, but
song.
it's true. You just don't know. And a lot of people are posting that on Facebook. And before you accuse someone of being someone who overshares, remember, you share typically with your primary recipient. If your primary recipient is not in your sphere, you're going to take that to a public or to Facebook. Just, we need to be aware that when people share like that, let them, you know, hug them virtually, reach out, because this is the place where people need to talk.
Well, what better time in history, really, has there been to be vulnerable, to share and say, I'm hurting. This sucks. It sucks for
Yeah.
some people. And yet, as we talked about, these are really interesting times to be resourceful and to hold on to hope and joy. And you mentioned joy. And my question is, what brings you joy? I mean, I
I
know you're a
work at it.
joyous person.
I work at it.
Well, look, we all gripe because we've never been in this situation. I gripe, my husband and I talk about all the time that, you know, we're grateful for 10 million things one moment, and then you turn on the news and it's like we want to pull our hair out, right?
Well, right. But here's the thing: you have to honor that we go to that headspace. Don't make people feel full of
Mhm.
shame because I'm not suggesting you are, but I'm just saying in general, if people need to release, and even if it's what you don't want to hear, remember that it's another person, and what they're hearing from you is what you're hearing from them. And barking at each other is not going to build that bridge. And people bark an awful lot. For me, for finding joy, my painted all the walls in my house. And that may not sound like a big deal, but it was a huge deal because it really wasn't about the paint. It was about decluttering. It was about cleaning the walls, the floors, the furniture around it. It was about moving around. It was
Mhm.
about resetting the art. It was about, I guess the big word, declutter. And I got almost finished. I can't reach some of the walls, but that was a big thing for me, and seeing it done. Have my garden. It's overgrown and beautiful. Thank you.
As are your walls, and now I have to redo your intro. Thank you very much. I forgot to put,
Oh,
painter in
stop.
in that as
No,
well.
no, I am not a painter. Clearly, I am not a painter, but I painted them all black. And I know that sounds weird. The color of the wall is called seal skin. So it's this real rich, greeny gray black. And it makes all my art pop, and it makes the house look
Yes.
super clean. And I have shutters on all my windows that are white with white trim and those pop. So it really added some nice, I don't know, dimension to the house. And I think that's kind of my personal journey that I'm going, I do have the company coming out. In our industry sector, I can imagine that at least have virtual travel coming up as we launch this because it's a team of four as part of Cast Voices right now, but the person who's typically the one on stage yakety yakking is me. So I feel like I'm just kind of going through this ready for the fun, and I well, look at it, it's fun, and I'm real proud. So that's kind of the house too. So I don't know. I guess that's where I'm at. I don't know if that's the answer, but that's kind of where I'm
Again, that's your answer. That's why we're talking, as opposed to me. I want to hear what you have to say, and I know other people do as well. And I've seen a picture of your gorgeous fur
at. Fisher.
baby online, and so yes, I'm interested in how
His
he
name is
got
Fisher
that name.
Cutbank. So, and
Okay, I
yes,
hadn't
yes, I
heard the
had
full
another
name.
Westie that she was with me for 20 years. She just passed about 6 months ago, but her name was
Wow,
Gidget Gracie Grasshopper. And I have had them at Fisher's for 16. And I've had him since he's about,
really? Is
yeah.
he really that
And
old?
Fisher is
Oh,
still healthy for the most part. He's losing some sight and hearing, but he has such a happy disposition, and he's my bud, man. He was walking with me. My mailbox is kind of up I don't know, about a 45-degree incline for about 411 feet. No, I haven't measured that. But and Fisher's like, I don't think I'm going to walk with you today. Love you. I'm not going to do
see
it.
you when
So
you get back.
exactly. Well, he used to walk with me to the top, and literally he would stop at the gate. I would get out of sight, finish up the walk, come back around, and he's sitting there waiting for me at the gate. And I just thought that was the coolest thing. So, but now he's kind of quit walking with me up there, and I don't, I think he's just tired. He's just a tired old man. So he gets run to the house. He gets good air conditioning. Gets to sleep in the bed. He gets fed food. His footprint is more expensive than mine. So, just
He's
saying.
got it. He's got it going on.
Pardon me. He absolutely does.
The pictures of him and your squirrel soiree that happen in the morning is
Oh my God.
very sweet.
Every morning, you know,
That's pretty funny.
goes for whatever the squirrels and the birds leave behind.
We've
And
got
it's
squirrels, we've got snakes, we've got,
possum. We've
possum.
got
Oh, fill in the blank.
raccoons, just, yeah. But I love it. I have become that old lady that goes out with her coffee in the morning and does her thing. And I'm cool with it. I'm cool with it. I'm very, very, very blessed with this property. It is a gift, and I treat it as such.
And you can see that. It really is like a Garden of Eden. I mean, I have a little garden. I see your
No,
pictures
no,
and I'm like,
no.
that's not a garden.
These are just plants that I've planted that get watered and they live. So I mean, let's be real clear here.
Don't trivialize that. Let me tell you, there's some people who don't they do all the things right and plants just die on them. I'm not one of them. I'm very fortunate that I think I have a bit of a green thumb, but I do know people that I gave it special food. I talked to it. I gave it sunshine. I rotated it and they
Uh,
just die on me.
yeah,
It's hard not to take that
the yard I
personally
plant for the
somehow.
long term. Like I planted my fence of Vitek between me and my neighbor. But I planted it knowing it was going to take 5 or 6 years to really fill in. So cool. I'll wait that 5 or 6 years for it to really fill in. It's cool. But it's Darwin's garden. It's survival of the fittest. So it's got its specialties.
I love that you planted something for it to grow 5 or 6 years later, and it's a little bit
Oh
like
my
Cast
gosh, but that was
Voices, right?
20. I mean, yes.
Yeah. So it was a longer
Well,
producing
yeah. And
fern,
I got
or
exactly.
bush.
I mean, I'm just honest to goodness. Cast Voices is an amalgamation of me and Nick. It never would have gotten to where it is without Nick. And, if I was an impetus to begin that is really wonderful. And again, I throw kudos to Bobby and Elizabeth. It's It is such a beautiful thing to see a dream come to fruition. I can't even tell you. And it's not quite there, but I know it's going to be there. And it is a beautiful, beautiful thing. Even if I didn't get there till I was 60, I always laugh that I'm going to be the oldest entrepreneur that has launched, oldest female that has launched a business to business enterprise platform. So, this is something that people usually do when they're, young. So, it'll be fun. I mean, it's lots of fun.
I love that, Liz. I love that because first of all,
Well,
if not
absolutely.
now, when? Right? And from another concept I have from another podcast was talking about people 55 and older who are finally coming into, what they're meant to be doing, their passion projects or, fill in the blank. I believe not only for women, but for projects as we get older, it's more acceptable, if you will. I don't even like to use that term because,
It
it's your.
depends. It depends on the genre. I mean, I'm in a very technical field where the investors were typically my age range. But people that were investors that are my age range that have money to invest have a completely different paradigm of who should be launching a company. Yeah, that's a whole another discussion, but it has been very eye-opening for me, and I'm glad that I'm accepting that some cultures are just behind the times. But I'm very fortunate.
Tech tends to run much, much younger. What I was referring to is that socially and culturally, it is now, and I say in air quotes,
Oh,
acceptable.
yes,
Because really, bottom line is, if it's your passion project and something you want to do, it doesn't matter if it's acceptable to somebody
exactly.
else. It's just now a time where we're embracing that more. I guess that's what I was
Yeah, I
referring to.
totally agree to you. I agree with you. And on top of the fact, it's a woman-owned business, and that I'm extraordinarily fortunate in that I am doing a service for a field of people that I love. I understand the business. I don't understand all of it, but I understand it. I do go out of my way to try to help people. And while, of course, I would love to make a living from Cast Voices, I have not been so far because it's not into play. But that is the goal was to create Cast Voices, but the goal did not run parallel with Get Rich. Goal was to build a company that was a viable company and a real company. And it's not that my talent agency wasn't a real company, but it was me. I had excellent people that worked with me that made that company roll. In terms of decision, it was me. Right now, working on Cast Voices, it is beautiful to be collaborating with three other people and an advisor and a software team in a way that is so meaningful from a business and technical standpoint. I mean, having discussions with attorneys, doing equities, there's just so much that I've learned that try to teach you in entrepreneurial school 101, but until you are in it and it's happening, it's all theory. So now being able to experience that has been really good to learn. And I also learn things that I just don't care to learn. I'm happy for somebody else to take that, banner, and I'll just be over here doing my cheerleader stuff. But I've done a lot of work on this. I mean, my brain is throughout it. Nick's brain is throughout it. Bobby and Elizabeth's influence is throughout it. So that's it's a dream job, hands down, a dream job.
Well, I wish you great, great, great success with it
Oh, thank
because the fact that you have been working on it so long and diligently, and it's a passion project, and your love for people and what you do is evident. And a couple more questions. I've loved
Sure.
this time. I'm thinking we could talk much longer, and yet my brain is going, I have to edit this. So
Sorry. Listen, I could have warned
no,
you.
I
I'm a
love it.
talker.
How do you see yourself moving forward as we
Well,
re-enter
there's two
life?
answers. Well, I guess no, there's three. There's moving forward from lockdown. There's moving forward personally, and there's moving forward from a career standpoint. And from lockdown, I don't even know how to answer you right now. Honestly, I'm perfectly fine at home. I'm good. I miss people. I miss the opportunity to get to know someone. I miss those things. But They don't disable me. So I'm not in a place of emotional missing. I don't know what I was looking for there, but an emotional void. I don't have that. What I do have is that I've been very fortunate. And I kind of touched on this earlier too. Some internal observation, analysis, and exceptional growth. And I am embarking on that now. And I believe the assumptions on how, what, when, and where that I got to where I am are valid. And is in a place that's really good. It's nice to come out of a many year fog of indecision or wrong decision or painful learning and be on the other side of that. So I was talking to my friends. I'm like, this is a couple weeks. I'm like, I have all this energy. And, if you look on the internet, sudden bursts of energy and not sleeping, dear God, you better look out. Liz is in trouble. And I didn't feel in trouble. I felt like I was back to my old self. I've always been somebody that's had a lot of energy, a lot of going, ideas popping out of my head 24/7. And I was back in that space. And that was really when I was painting and stuff. I was just like doing whatever I did during the day did not feel like a chore. It felt like a step in the right direction. So honoring that right now, I'm trying to really be authentic and real and just authentic and real. And not all those buzzwords that in and out, da, 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 da. I just want to feel like when I'm around people, what you see is who I am. Because people talk to me a lot, and I don't mean to be that person of authority. I certainly didn't seek it out, but I guess I also didn't, temper or filter my opinions. But and then in terms of career, I'm moving to a company that has the potential to be a company that is recognized in a business world. I don't know how to, I think it will be a company that, if we do it right, will be a company that will be one of a level of name recognition. It'll be respected technically. And I think it has the opportunity to grow into a destination for work that is really groovy. There's that $1,000 word. And
You're dating yourself, Liz.
I know. No, I'm bringing it back, baby. I'm bringing it back. But I think I'm in a leadership role in a company like that. So the people that I'll be having business conversations with are certainly the voiceover team, but it's like things like trends and marketing and human information, and not selling human information that's on the database. Never, ever, never. We do not sell advertising. That's not our business model. Not that on the free ones. At the free ones, we're going to do Google ads at the bottom to help. Listen, if you want a free one, these little Google ads are going to be at the bottom, but that is not our business model. So I feel like I have to grow up a little bit. I have to learn to be a really engaging team player. And I think I'm mastering that in a good way. I've learned and I've made some mistakes, but I so respect my team. That makes that transition from a sole proprietor to corporation pres, which are big, big words, but I feel like I'm, moving in that direction. I hope.
Speaking of hope, and I hope that for you as well, and the fact that you are actually embracing this full on says a lot about your character and facing fear, because being an entrepreneur, being, a CEO or doing something at this scale is scary.
Girl, it's risky,
and
stupid stuff.
it is, but you know what? That's life. It's like, we can quote the Edisons, or, one of my favorite things. I wish it wasn't one of my favorite things lately, but it happens to be, is Mark Ruffalo spoke about his first big break and how it took him 600 auditions before he landed a role. Now, most folks would not be that tenacious. It's somewhere along the line, whether you're a Mark Ruffalo or an Edison or, Liz Atherton, you would go, wow, is it 399 that I stop at? Is it year 10? Is it year 15? Is it year 20? And yet you've been tenacious, you've kept the vision in front of you and you're doing it. And so is that what to bring it to a close, is that what makes you hopeful? Is that you're seeing the fruit of your labor and your patience and your efforts?
Honestly, what makes me hopeful is that I'm happy in what I'm doing. The fruit of my labor, oh gosh, yes. But that, honestly, I believe so much that it's going to do what it's intended from a business and from a talent and from an every perspective, that I feel strong there. But in terms of just general, I'm in a place in work that gives me a great deal of satisfaction. And as those layers get thicker and thicker with launching the product, hopefully people enjoying the product, providing them a bang for the buck for the product, having it eventually self-sustain and then roll out other products. I feel so comfortable in my skin where I'm going with this. Some people might call that crazy. Some people might call that passionate. But I feel extraordinarily well versed and prepared for where I'm going. And if there's, if there were to be advice anywhere, if you are looking to step into an entrepreneurial role, I mean, you're born an entrepreneur, but if you want to self-train or whatever, to do that as well. If you're looking to launch a company, you have to be from a place of full tilt belief. You can't do it halfway. You just can't. And the no's are going to far outweigh the yeses to begin with, and be prepared for that. You know, that's why a lot
Mhm.
of the entrepreneurs these days are young people, trust funds, because it's not so much that the trust fund will necessarily fund the entrepreneur, but that layer of not being concerned is an interesting layer. People like me and you, it's a big decision. When it's from your heart, you can't stop, and you just can't. And I've got fortunate. There were a couple of times we were so close, and literally before the week before our investors showed up, I had made a mental decision that I was done. So I wasn't even pitching it. It said, wait, 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 here we go, girl. So it's you know, I feel ready. And I mean, I think you, Cheryl, when you started this podcast, you didn't just say, today I'm Cheryl, tomorrow I'm Cheryl the podcast. There's work that goes
Mhm.
into that, and there's thought, and there's just a whole lot of prep. When you're on the right path, you can't do anything but continue to envision the outcome. You just can't. Anyway,
Amen. Amen.
thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Liz, very much for your time and your insight, and I'm excited for you and the fact that I'll be
Wow, you
60
look good.
in December, and I think
You
it's
look fantastic.
oh,
Look at you.
girlfriend. I just love lenses and Photoshop.
Whatever. I see those size 4, 6 pants you're putting on. Don't even
Whatever,
go there
Madge.
with me. Whatever.
So, thank you, my
Exactly.
dear, and,
Thank
um,
you.
you
Thank
just
you.
have a beautiful day, and we're gonna, look out for what's happening with Cast Voices and Liz Atherton, and, gonna
Thank you.
trust it's gonna
Have
be
a
really
wonderful
good.
day. I appreciate you to the moon and back. Bye bye.
You too. Bye-bye. Thank you for joining me today for 19 Stories. I'd like to once again thank Liz Atherton for sharing her personal story and message of hope. It's inspiring to see her launch Cast Voices in spite of this pandemic, and I wish her much success and happiness with the service her and her team will be providing. Join me next week when my guest will be Eric Jackson, known as the Dean of Boston Jazz Radio, for his 40-plus years of being on the air at WGBH Radio in Boston. I'd also like to thank the following news outlets for the use of their clips in so aptly painting the picture of the fear that we're facing during this pandemic: BBC, PBS, Now This, UNESCO, and Some Good News. I especially want to thank Joel and Luke Smallborn, otherwise known as the Group for King and Country, for allowing me to use an excerpt of their song Together, which could not be a more hopeful and inspiring song for such a time as this. Finally, I'll leave you with the following from Proverbs 23:18. Surely there is a future, and your hope will not be cut off. Thank you again for joining me today. Feel free to offer feedback or a story idea at 19stories@soundsatchelstudios.com. Visit my website at soundsatchelstudios.com, via Instagram at CherylHollingVO. I look forward to sharing more stories on the next episode of 19 Stories from Fear to Hope. Until then, stay healthy and hopeful.
Together with our differences, together we are bolder, braver, stronger.